This is Drakkar Ltd, a company that I created with my husband 7 years ago. We are specialized in book distribution, so we basically start from publishing, editing, and sales and distribution of books. We mainly have textbooks from primary, secondary, and tertiary education, and we've been doing it for 7 years now. I am the managing director. My husband is a silent partner, if I can call it that way. Before starting this business, I used to work for a consulting firm here in Kigali and in Gabon. So I worked for that consulting firm for 5 years. And then because I used to travel a lot, so I was picking books during my travels, and one day we found our home, close of 250 books. It was a mix of fiction, novels, and some journals. It was really a mix of everything. So we decided to open a small bookstore selling used books, basically the books that we had. That's how the idea came up, and it was, at first it was really starting that shop because we wanted to share our passion of reading. We love books, we read a lot. So, and at that time people were not really reading, and they used to say that books are very expensive, it's not a priority, it's a luxury, blah, blah. So at first, when we started, it wasn't really to make money. We just wanted to get rid of it, those books. So we set up the small shop. At the same time, I had my babies. So I had 2 girls in 2 years. So I was very busy with that. So I decided to open the shop and run it. 3 months later, all the books were gone. So I was like, oh, wait a second, maybe there is an opportunity here. So I started reading a little bit about the book industry in Rwanda and how it works, understand exactly how the publishing process is done. And I went on Google because I didn't know people in the industry. So Google was my place of search. And I remember that I tapped biggest publisher, and one name came on top, and I wrote to that publisher explaining who I was and what I was trying to do, and telling them, if you're interested, there is this big potential in Rwanda, you should come. 2 weeks later, someone responded and said, it's very nice so that you wrote to us, but please tell us more. How is the education system in Rwanda? How many schools you have? How many girls and boys in schools, all those kind of stuff. So I was very excited at first and decided to go to the Ministry of Education and gather all the information to really understand what was going on. So that's how, and because I was in the consulting world, so I made a very nice PowerPoint presentations, and then I sent everything. So I think they're very impressed, so they called me this time, and they wanted to learn what I was doing exactly in the book industry, how long I have been working in the book industry. I was like, 3 months. So they were not very impressed. So it took us a full year of phone calls and conference calls, and they even came to Rwanda, and we met, just to see exactly if it's real. So after 1 year of negotiation and discussion, we finally signed a contract with them in 2008. And I became their representative here in Rwanda and Burundi. So at that same period of time, the Rwandan government decided to change the language of instruction from French to English. And guess what? I was representing a British publisher. So for me, the time was perfect. But we had at that time to look for authors, because it was a few years after the genocide, we didn't have people who can write the books. So the idea that I came up with was to put together all the teachers of the top performing schools and put them in a room, give them the curriculum from the Ministry of Education and ask them to write the books based on the curriculum. That's what we did. We wrote those books, we submitted them to the Ministry of Education. Because the English was not very good, so we went back and sent the manuscript to the publisher in the UK so that they can polish it. They send it back. So 98% of the titles that we submitted were approved. So that was a huge success. In the meantime, they also decided that they wanted to decentralize the way they were procuring books. The way they were doing it before was to collect the different needs from the schools and say that, okay, we'll buy it from only one publisher, and that's it. But this time they're saying to schools, this is the list of publishers that we have. They'll come to you, they'll do some marketing. You're free to choose from whoever you want to work with. So that was also another business opportunity for us. And that's how we expanded the team, from having only myself working, being the accountant, the human resource manager, the everything. We developed and had more than 100 people at that time, because you have more than 3,000 schools to visit. You have more than 3,000 schools again to distribute books to. So it's a long and lengthy process, and just doing that was another business model, because it's going into the business of distributing, which is totally different from the business of publishing books. So it was a very nice experience. We've been doing that for the past 3 years now. And I feel really, really blessed to have started this business. I won't say that I was an entrepreneur by heart, and that would be a lie. I think I was very, very lucky and blessed to have that thirst of reading and have all these books in my place. That's how I started, In terms of the capital, because I always get that question, how did you start it, Because most of the time, access to finance is one of the biggest problems for young people here in Rwanda to start their own business. So because I was already married when I started the business, I asked my husband if we can use the family savings at that time, because we didn't have a baby and anything, so it was just the two of us. So I was telling him the worst thing that can happen, we'll just lose the money, but we won't die. It's only the two of us anyway, so that will be the worst case scenario, just lose the money, and that's it. But what if I can pay back in, let's say, a year? Would that be good? And he said yes. So I took a loan from my husband, actually, and signed a paper that I'll be paying back the money in a year. Actually, I ended up paying in 3 years, not a year, but I paid eventually. So yeah, and today I'm very, very glad to say that we are now partnering in the business, because he's also left his job and is now working with me. And we are now doing different things. We are in construction now, and we are also in landscaping. That's why you show all this machine downstairs. So we are trying to diversify a little bit the business and see how to move forward. I think the Rwandan culture itself, it's more an oral culture. People used to tell stories, around the fire, at night, something like that, and you'll have your grandma or your grandpa telling you stories. But it was really rare to have those stories put into books. So I think that's what I think. But with time also, it's everyone at some point used to speak only Kinyarwanda, And before the genocide, they used to study primary in Kinyarwanda only. So it was only Kinyarwanda taught in primary school. So after that, it was changed. So there were French, it was French and Kinyarwanda. And by 2008, there's this switch to English now as a medium of instruction. So I think it has been very, very hard for not only the teachers who are out there in the field to master maybe one language. You know, for those ones who are teaching, let's say in the past 5-10 years, they've been taught in French, you know, all their life. You know, even myself, you know, French is my primary language. That's what I speak the most. And then overnight, they switched to English, which was very hard. And when you are an adult and then you are asked to start learning a new language at that age, it's really, really hard. So it has also decreased the confidence of the teachers, let's say, because kids can pick languages just like this. And when they see in front of them someone who is not very comfortable and making mistakes, they laugh at them, and then the teachers are like, you know, it's difficult, but we are getting there. I think that's why the business of having a store selling used books, because from the beginning people are saying that, you know, books were too expensive, and it was true. When you went to some bookstore, the books were highly expensive. So the primary idea was to make them affordable. So what if the books are affordable? Will people buy? And the experience proved us right, because 3 months later, all the books were gone. So that means that there are people who are there who want to read, but maybe they don't have the means to purchase the book. So that was just a test for us to see how to overcome that problem. Let me tell you the truth, it was not for free. So they were definitely paid, but I think it was also a very good experience for them. And you know, today they have their names of the book. They know that for the next 5 to 10 years, Rwandan children will be, you know, reading from the book they wrote. You know, this is sort of a legacy that they are, you know, giving back to the country and the community. So there is also that part which is very, very important. And at that time, I think everyone wanted to contribute at some point, you know, and everyone was seeing that, you know, education system with the switch, it was getting harder and harder, and we needed books, you know, adapted to the Rwandan curriculum at that time. So we had to work together no matter what. The book industry itself is a very expensive industry. You know, publishing, you know, buying all those machines, it's deadly expensive. So being in a consulting world, I was thinking, you know, the best thing to do is just find partners. Maybe it will decrease on your margin and everything else, but you know, it's better to have 1% of, you know, $1 million, let's say, than 100% of all the problems that coming with $1 million. So it was just the fact that, you know, Pearson was a well-renowned publisher. They've been in business for more than 150 years. You know, they know what they're doing, they know the market. And also I wanted some credibility myself, because, you know, coming from nowhere, you know, with no background in education whatsoever. So I wanted to have a backup of people who have been there for a long time. If I have to work with the Ministry of Education, for example, they need to see in me that I'm serious and I'm capable to do the job that I say I'll be doing. So that's why I really wanted to have a strong partner in this venture. For me, it's great. It has been, at the beginning, I used to work for that consulting firm I used to work with Americans, and now I was working with British people. Just two different ways of working. But I think it's, when I look back, yes, there were some challenges at some point, you know, some miscommunication, you know, but we always find a way to agree to disagree. And so far so good. We've been together, for 7 years, and we keep renewing the contracts all the time. And I know that they are not with me because they like me or because I have a nice smile. It's because I'm delivering. When we sign a contract, there is I have some targets. Both of us have some targets, and we agree on them. And if I'm not fulfilling those targets, then we have to sit and understand why, what is not working, and vice versa. So it's really, for me, I've seen this partnership as something really good for me. I'm learning a lot. I've met great people in the company who are becoming friends also. And it has been also inspiring for some of them who are now thinking of starting their own businesses also on the side. So yes, so far I can say it's so good. Today, the big company shouldn't look at Rwanda itself. Rwanda is now part of different regional blocks, the EAC and COMESA and all that. They should look at all the 120 million, let's say, people in the EAC, for example. That's the market. It's not Rwanda. That's really the market. As I started at the beginning of the interview, I was saying that I also represent Pearson in Burundi. So Burundi is also part of the East African community. They're thinking of changing the language of instruction to English. It's coming up. So it's also a business opportunity there, At the beginning, when I said that I wanted to represent Burundi, I did not think about that. I was just like, what? Burundi speaks French, why not? That was the thinking behind. But now I can see how strategic that was. And it's really, today in Europe and in America, you have people they are seeing some recession in the economy. But here you can see everything is growing, infrastructure is booming, yet yes, the purchasing power is still not there, but the numbers can make it. Yeah, yes, and every challenge that you see at the moment in the country or in the East African community is an opportunity. It's really a business opportunity, and it's really up to who will see it first and who will take that first step, that's the person who will be able to succeed. Actually, my primary stakeholders is Mineduc, actually. It's Mineduc, because when I say that I supply more than 3,000 schools, that's public schools who report to the Ministry of Education. So those are my primary, the king of the clients. Those are the ones that, those are the biggest contract that we get every year. We definitely also work with private universities and private schools, but those are small orders compared to our main partner, who is the Ministry of Education. Yeah. I started as someone, was just representing a big publisher at the beginning, supplying books. But now we are more seen as a partner. We are working with them in partnership with them for some trainings in schools. We are also providing them with some laboratory equipment for the A-level examination period. So those are lab equipment that they use to do exams. We are becoming more and more partner, if I can say it like that. Yes. So the relationship has evolved, and I think when you work with big institutions like that, you have to make sure that the quality you are giving remain the same, because just a small mistake can just kill the whole relationship. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I wasn't the first. So when the ministry they launched this big tender in 2010, looking for publishers to write books in English, they wanted to evaluate many different people, and they came up with a list of approved publishers, and I was one of them. So we are about 10, there's 10 of us. I have the second biggest market share, which is great, but we are 10 of us. And where the game is really, really interesting, it's when we have to go to the schools. Because in terms of pricing, my prices are a little bit higher than others. You know, because all the different other publishers are either from India, from Kenya, Uganda. So the competition is very, very high. But I think it's good. The teachers and headmasters, they have the opportunity to, you know, choose which book they want to use for that specific year, based on the price, yes, but also on the quality of the papers on the books and how durable it is. The good thing with books, that we don't pay VAT. So it's a really, really good business in that sense. So from the time I started my business to the first 3 years, I was not very well, I was not really knowledgeable about all the tax regime and all the import and export tax and everything. I wasn't that good. So that's why you have to surround yourself with people who are good at it, you know, and just accept the fact that they know what they do. They've been in that industry for, you know, 5-10 years, and it's fine if you don't understand everything. You know, they'll make sure that you don't have to pay any fines. They'll tell you when you have to pay the things. But by trying to minimize the costs, so you do it by yourself, everything by yourself, you will be losing a lot, because you either be missing a deadline, or you either be missing something, and then you're in trouble. So for the first 3 years, I made that mistake because I wanted to understand everything by myself. I was telling myself, like, you know, if I understand it, I can do it myself and I can save, you know, more money and minimize the costs. But it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. And so by the time I got someone just in charge of that, it has been so easy. I just have to sign. You know, the person come and explain to me what the taxes are for, you know, where it's supposed to be paid and everything. And I have to sign. I don't have to make the calculations. I don't. It's easy, 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 easy. So my experience has been wonderful at the moment. When I started the business in 2006, you know, it was a hobby. It was really a hobby. You know, I loved books, and then I was like in that shop with all the books that I loved. I didn't have a big vision of it. I wanted just to get rid of these books, make sure that, you know, other people are enjoying it as much as I enjoy them. And then I was like, you know, if I sold them, that well and good. I'll move to the next thing and see. But with time, I should also say, I think that I did not start with the business plan when I started. You know, it was intuition. It was just intuitions and trying to understand, you know, taking opportunities as they were coming. But 3 years later, that's when I really sat down and decided to write my own business plan, understand exactly where do I want to go, what is my vision, you know, where do we want to be in the next 5 years, what are the different competitors in the market, what are they doing differently, and how can we compete against them. So I really had to sit back and put all the information that I've gathered for the past 3 years, put it in a document. The reason why I did it, it's because there was this competition that was done by an institute called the Institute of Economic Empowerment of Women, which is based in Oklahoma. They came to Rwanda and they said that they wanted to do this business plan competition. So you had to take a class for 8 weeks. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, you write your own business plan. And after that, they'll assess you. You have to present it in front of a panel and they'll ask you questions. And at the end of it, the reward was to go to the States for 3 weeks and be with someone who is exactly in the same business just like you, and spend those 3 weeks together and learn and mentor. You can mentor that person and person can mentor you. So it was very rewarding for me. My focus at that time was like, you know what, I'm going to sit, do those classes, write that business plan, and if God wills, I'll go to the US and spend those 3 weeks, because I wanted to learn more, understand a little bit more about my business and what I wanted to do. So that's what happened. And since I had that business plan, it completely changed the way I started doing business. It was less on intuition than anything else. I was really focusing on what I wanted, what I said that I'll have to do, and always going back to it and, sit back and say, okay, what did I say again I'll do in 2 years? And then try to do that. And if there is more time, try to do the other things that are also available, because opportunities will always come, always be available. And the danger when you're an entrepreneur is when you're trying to do everything at the same time, and you are in books, but there is also this opportunity in agriculture, this opportunity in, anything, and you just feel like, I can do it. And you get burned out because it's too much. You can't take it all. So it really helped me to focus on one thing and also sit back. So based on that, our vision is really to make sure that we're bringing knowledge to the Rwandan kids, but also we are making sure that culture of reading is spread out. If we can do it at a less cost possible, well and good. So 2 years ago, we started a foundation where we are now teaching teachers in those schools that are really, really performing poorly how to teach reading in primary school. So that's what we've been doing with the foundation. And the money from the foundation is coming actually from the profit that we have in the business. So last year, we wrote a proposal. There was this big competition in USA, in the US, and we won an award based on that project, because we wanted our model was to see how we can translate all the small readers that we have from English to Kinyarwanda. Because if everyone speaks Kinyarwanda anyways, if they have books in Kinyarwanda, it will be easier for them to learn. And even that, to have that to be willing to buy a book in Kinyarwanda, and it will be easier than if it's in English. So that's what we did, and we are still in the middle of the project at the moment. We are training the teachers on how to teach reading, how to teach the read aloud books to students. It's a very, very fulfilling experience, because when a kid is seeing his teacher reading a book with all the mimic and everything, it's because before, the way they used to do it in class, they would just sit, take the book and just read it as if they're reading a newspaper. I mean, you have kids who are 5, 6, 8-year-old. They need some more actions, for them to be interested. So if you put all these actions, and you really read very slowly, and you ask them questions in the middle, and at the end you ask them what they think about the story, they're very, very clever. You will be amazed, especially when we do it in Kinyarwanda. They're very fluent and very, very quick, in the thinking and everything else. So that's also what we are trying to do with the foundation. Before we used to do it with the business, but it was when you're doing things like that, you're not getting any money. So we had to decide to divide those two and have the business for profits, which is clear, exactly, and have the foundation for all the rest. Yes. So all the textbooks are made based on the curriculum. So as soon as we have a manuscript, it is edited definitely by a group of people. After the editing, they're sent to production. At the moment, we are producing everything, publishing everything in Malaysia and China, in partnership with Pearson. In terms of, because we have huge quantities, more than 500,000 books, so it makes more sense for us to print them in those countries and ship them here. So they're written here, edited in the UK, and then sent to China or Malaysia, and sent back here for selling and distribution. So that's the production process. Yes, in short, yes. Yeah, I think I would have started maybe before, in terms of the business plan. I should have not waited 3 years to write the business plan, really, because I can see today some opportunities that were lost because I was not very organized or prepared. I think also surrounding myself with people who might be more intelligent is not a bad thing. You need to, as a manager or as a CEO of a company, you need to understand that you're not God. You can't know everything. There are people out there who have been, studying finance or marketing, whatever, who are really extremely good at what they do. And you need to be okay with the fact that you won't, however much you read, you won't be as good as them. You can be, as the project coordinator of the whole group, and make sure that these people are doing whatever they're supposed to do. But trying to micromanage those kind of people doesn't work. I think one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing with is really managing people. Being a young woman, business owner, and managing a big team of people where the majority are men, it can be also very challenging. But I've also learned to let it go and really delegate also a lot, because you can't do everything. Yeah. Yes, I didn't know that I was a tough woman. Yes, I used to. I used to think that I was very, I was shy and very introvert, which is true. I think I'm introvert, but I didn't know that I was tough. That one came up when I was trying to manage the expectation of people. At the beginning, you try to please everyone, and then you see that it doesn't work that way. And then you try to, because the unemployment rate is so high in the country, you have people calling you from left, right, center, everywhere, trying to ask for a job, even people from your family. At first you say, why not? I have to hire people anyway. So you give them jobs. And then at the end of the day, the same members of family are either not performing or it's not working. So you are in that dilemma where you have the whole team looking at you, and you have that family member who is there because he or she knows that she is a family member. She feels safe, nothing can happen to her. And then when you start to give warnings or trying to show that things are not working the way it's supposed to work, the person bring the matters to the bigger family. So your business problem becomes a family problem. So that one was it was a learning process for me. And then I think with time, you need to really make a decision on where you want to work with family members or not. And if you decide that you want to work with them, you have to make sure that you are fair with everyone, because when you're trying to give some to be too nice to the family members, and when others are saying it, you're losing your authority, and then it's really not good. So yeah, it has been a learning process, and I'm still learning up to date. I'm really still learning, and I've been very, very humbled by the different suggestions that you can get from your team members also. It's working with the team, sometimes you can get great suggestions or ideas from people you may not even think about. So my advice to people who are studying business is to really involve everyone in the process. Sometimes great ideas can come from the cleaner, for example, especially when you're SME. Solution can come from anyone because the business is small. Everyone sees what are the problems, and people can provide solutions. My advice to young women starting businesses is to really find out first what they want to do. I think that's extremely important. What do they really want to do? And it's also okay for them not to go into business, because I really believe that not everyone is supposed to do business. It's true that the government encourage people to go into business. Yeah, but you really need to sit back yourself and have that question yourself and see, is it really business that you want to do? If yes, what kind of business you want to do? And really find the one thing that you're passionate about. Because if it wasn't for my love of books, there are some days where I was closing the business every day in my head. I was like, this is not working. What am I doing really? And when you are not passionate about what you do, when you don't love what you're doing, it's so easy to get discouraged. So find first what you want to do, and make sure if that one thing is something that you're passionate about, well and good. And persevere. Perseverance is really important. Focus is extremely important. Have priority lists of not more than 5 things that you want to achieve. That's it. You don't need to have more than that. When it gets to 7, 10, 20, it's get out of your hands. And for young students who are maybe at Akilah, if today, for example, they are sitting back and thinking, what I want to do, I want to get married, and then I want to have kids, and I want to start a business. Start with one thing first. If you want to get married, okay, start with that. Do it first. Don't mix it, because one of the biggest mistake is you end up using the money for the business in your personal thing. The money for the business is for the business. It's not your petty cash or your pocket money. You have to separate those two and make sure that you really understand that the business is something that you have to cherish and really keep different from your family or all your family matters. Let me say it that way. Trying to focus more on the family side at the moment. I'm expecting, so it's I'm trying to slow down a little bit. I have 2 girls at the moment, age 5 and 6, and they were not saying me that much for the past 7 years. So from the time they were born up to now, I was very, very busy, and but now they're starting primary schools, and I want to be there for that part of their life. So I really want to slow down things. The business is at a point where it's growing. I have now good managers in place who understand the business. I can travel for 3-6 months, and I know that everything will work perfectly. So for the next 2 to 3 years, I just want to take things slowly. And but for the next 5 to 10 years, I want to open a school. Yes. So being in this industry, selling books, publishing books, I feel like it will be great to have an institutions where everything, all that material is used, and have maybe the teachers that will be training ourselves, and have a model that maybe not a very big school, but that can work and which we can replicate later. So that's my dream at the moment, and I really hope that it will come true one day. In terms of opportunity for women business owners, the opportunities there are too many, I think. For real, it's amazing. There is so much for us women in business that sometimes it's overwhelming. The problem, I think, it's that even in the culture we were taught not to. For example, when you're talking to someone, you're always looking down. You don't look the person in the eye because it's not polite, for example. That is just a stupid example. But in terms of your confidence, it doesn't boost your confidence at all. Because when you're talking to your banker and you're looking at, down, how do you talk about your business like that, So there's a lot of trainings and push that needs to be done, especially for young women who are trying to start their own business, just to boost their confidence and make sure that they understand that they are leaders themselves. They are leaders of their lives, their families, association, whatever. So it's very, very important that they feel that they can do something before starting that business, because if they cannot lead themselves, how can they lead a business and people in the business? It's not possible. So there's also a lot that has to be done in that sense. By the way, in the foundation, we also do that. I do a lot of public speaking, either in schools, orphanages, with young people in different districts, about that leadership role that they have. You can start thinking about opening your own business when you don't see yourself as a leader, as someone who can do something. It's really, really important, even as women first, to have that. I think the government have put all the policies, they've done their part. Now it's for us to assimilate all that, make sure that we understand what it really means, all those policies in place. Yeah. So while hiring a new employees, I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for someone who can innovate, who is not waiting for me to give him instructions. Who can see a situation and come up with a solution on his own, and maybe discuss it with me later or before, I don't mind. But really someone can be out there by himself, not waiting for me to give him direction. I'm looking for someone who is honest. When he doesn't know anything, he has to tell me that he doesn't know, which is fine, And I've learned that too, to tell the person, I don't understand, or I don't know what you're talking about. So please explain. It's really important to have that kind of honesty, to tell the person in front of you that you don't understand, and it's fine. I'm really looking for someone who's very dynamic, and who's not afraid for new challenges. We started this business. When I say we, it's me and my husband. But when we started this business, it was just a small dream. It was just a passion and a hobby. and look at where we are now, who would have known that this can happen? So I'm really looking for someone who can dream big, and even dream crazy. It's fine, because I think anything is possible, really possible. The book business is very seasonal, and we don't keep employees here full time, apart from the management staff here, which are 8 people who are full time. When it's the high season, we have around 100 and 150 people on the field. So that's how it varies. All the time. I get time to read. I make sure when I travel, I always take a book with me. This is vacation time, so my kids are now at my parents' place. So I have like 3 to 4 days. I have 2 books that I have to read, so it's really, really nice. I really try to read at least every night a chapter of any book, just for fun. Yeah.